Gear progression in Maplestory M is incredibly important, and as a newer player, it's really easy to make a ton of big mistakes when it comes to progressing your gear that are going to cost you a lot of Mesos, a lot of time, and just set you back a lot. In this video, I'm going to go ahead and share with you guys a few tips, information, just a general overall guide, and I really want to focus on 4 important things when it comes to the gear progression system in Maplestory M. So let's go ahead and get into it. The first thing that I want to share with you guys, and this is probably going to be the most important thing, which is why I'll go ahead and say it right at the start, is when it comes to gearing up your character, you want to mostly end up focusing on your weapon. That's because your weapon is going to be the bulk source of the damage and the power of your character. All the other pieces of armor that you have, they're going to be mostly for defensive stats. Obviously, as you get later on into the game, that will change, but for the basics and the fundamentals, generally speaking, your weapon's going to be the majority of the power for your character and the damage that you do, and your armor is going to be for defensive stats. Now, one of the big goals in Maplestory M is you want to be able to kill and farm as efficiently as you can. Whether you're farming experience or Mesos, you just want to get your damage up as much as you can. Defensive stats are going to be a secondary priority. So when it comes to working on your gear, you really want to focus mostly on your weapon, and then kind of take the remainder of your resources and divide them up among your armor. And that's exactly what I've done here on my character. You can see that my weapon is enhanced up to a star force of 8, which I'll talk about in a second, and it's actually orange, which means that it's unique, and most of the gear that I have is purple, which is epic, and it's only enhanced up to a star force of 4. The exception are my boots, which I ended up getting for free, so don't worry too much about that. The general overall theme is focus mostly on your weapon. It's going to give you a ton of damage, it's going to allow you to farm very efficiently, and it's going to be the best place to put your time and your bases into. You're going to get the most reward out of investing into your weapon. Focus on your armor, secondary. The next thing that I want to talk about is going to be a really important tip, something that I've seen a ton of newer players end up making a big mistake on, and that is going to be what to level up when it comes to your gear. This is going to be actually using either the powders or using equipment to actually level up your gear. This is going to end up costing a lot of Mesos. It's going to actually end up consuming other pieces of gear, or it's going to end up consuming these powders that you end up getting. And I'll go ahead and say, at this point in the game, we're still so early on, do not level up anything except for weapons right now. It is absolutely not worth it. It's not worth the equipment that you use as material. It's not worth the dust that you use. It's not worth the Mesos. It's just not worth it. Weapons, on the other hand, it's worth it because it's going to give you extra damage on your weapon. And again, we go back to that theme of more damage equals being able to farm more efficiently. When it comes to armor, if you put a lot of Mesos and investment into actually leveling up your armor, it's just going to give you a few extra defensive stats, which are important later on, but right now you really just want to get your damage up as much as you can. So don't focus on leveling up your armor. Worry about that later on. We're still too early on in the game. There's not enough Mesos and time and resources to go around to spend everything on your armor right now. You really want to focus on your weapon when it comes to leveling up. The next thing that I want to talk about is enhancement and Star Force enhancement. This is going to be the little icon that you see at the top right of my gear where it says 4 for everything and my weapon ends up saying 8. Going back to that number 1 thing and that big theme is mostly focus on your weapon. Same thing applies here, and Star Force enhancement is going to do the same thing as what leveling up would do to your gear. It's just going to increase its power. And armor, again, don't want to focus on it too much because it's just going to be defensive stats. You can see right here, physical defense, magical defense. If I were to click any other piece of gear, it's going to be defensive stats, and that's a lot of Mesos, right? The weapon, on the other hand, if I were to enhance the Star Force of my weapon, this is going to give me magic attack. That's extra damage. Extra damage means I can farm quicker, more efficiently, means more Mesos per hour, means more experience per hour. The weapon ends up pretty much being a giant self-fulfilling cycle, so you really want to put your resources and Star Force into your weapon. But then you might ask, why is my armor actually still enhanced a little bit? Well, you want to enhance your armor at least a little bit when it comes to Star Force enhancement, and that's because it's going to allow you to actually farm in the Star Force fields. The Star Force fields are going to be one of the best places to actually get experience in the game, and unfortunately, you can't actually farm in a Star Force field unless you have the proper enhancement. an enhancement requirement, sorry. So you could see my Star Force total enhancement is 36, which means this is the Star Force, the last Star Force field that I could actually farm in. If I were to go into anything higher, I wouldn't actually do any damage. So that could be a whole different video and a whole different subject. In fact, I think it is. I think I have a video talking about Star Force fields up on the channel. So if you're interested in more information about that, feel free to check it out later. But let's go ahead and get back into gearing up. The last thing that I want to talk about is set effects. This is definitely, I guess you could say, a newbie trap. And set effects right now, they seem very glamorous. And they definitely are. They seem very tempting to try to complete set effects and go for all the different bonuses and everything. You could see if I take a look at one of my set effects here. Let's see if I can find it. Set options, applying 3 set effects. So I have 3 out of 4 for this set, but then my boots are different. I know that might be a little bit of a nightmare to people who like to have complete sets. Well, I don't. And I actually know that might seem a little bit crazy, but I'm going to go ahead and probably recommend the same to you right now, is to try to clear that out of your minds. Try to clear out the temptation to complete a set right now. And the reason is because set effects are just not big enough of a deal to really feel like you need to spend extra resources in order to complete that set. Now, if you can end up doing it without putting any extra resources into trying to do it, if that makes sense, that's totally fine. But if you feel like you have to put extra time or extra Mesos or extra investment just to actually complete a set, it's absolutely not worth it. Those Mesos could be spent on your weapon, they could be spent more importantly, and set effects are just not a big enough deal right now at this point in the game. Later on, they will be, but we're not really at the min-maxing stages of the game yet. It's still too early on. There's still way too much other stuff to spend Mesos and time investment into, so completing set effects are not going to be one of those priorities. I know that's a bit of a struggle, especially towards people who are completionists or people like me who like to have all their gear the same and all pretty and nice, but you're going to have to get it out of your head at least for a little bit. So that's going to be about it. I know that's just a few tips that I've shared with you guys, but this is one of those things that you could end up talking about for a very long time. So I've shared with you guys 4 different tips, and hopefully as a newer player, this helped you out at least a little bit, and hopefully you can use these tips to help with your gear progression so that you don't end up making a lot of really big mistakes that people end up making. I know there's a lot of things that I also didn't talk about, but if you are interested in more videos in the future, or you want me to make a video expanding on some of the things that I talked about in this one, feel free to let me know. Leave any feedback that you guys want. Let me know in the comments. Toss a like if you enjoyed the video, of course, that would help out a lot. And if you're newer to the channel and you are interested in seeing more videos, guides on Maplestory M, consider subscribing to the channel to get notifications of future videos. We actually passed over 250 subscribers overnight, which is absolutely crazy considering how new the channel is. So a major thank you to the 250 of you who have decided to subscribe and support the channel. I greatly appreciate it, everyone. So that's going to be about it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And until next time, this is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.